Welcome to Native Speaker e-learning. We're going to look at writing skills now and tips on writing a good cover letter. First, ask yourself, what is the purpose of a cover letter? A cover letter paints a portrait of you as a person. It gives a prospective employer an introduction to you, and it gets you to the next stage, the interview. A good cover letter shows them your value. It doesn't tell them your value. It gives real examples of your achievements, and it focuses on your real life, not your life on paper. Let's have a look at some tips now on writing cover letters. Sometimes students focus only on spelling, punctuation, grammar. These are important, of course, but students sometimes forget etiquette, word choice, and judgment. These are really important. Let's look firstly at etiquette. This means a code of politeness. We always use a certain type of language to express polite etiquette. Hello or hi there is a very nice phrase face to face or in a text. But in a cover letter, dear sir or madam, to whom it may concern, and dear Ms. or Mr. Smith. So I'm sure you've seen those phrases before, opening a formal letter and specifically a cover letter. I'm writing to you because I'd like to ask if. Again, fine in a text, in Viber, in a personal email. But in a cover letter, we'd say I'm writing to inquire as to whether. I'm writing to inquire as to whether. That's how you ask for something as regards information. Could you is a nice phrase face to face or in a text or in something informal, but in a cover letter, I would appreciate if you could, or I would be grateful if you could. So there are two phrases that we can use there. So remember, etiquette is a code of politeness that we use in cover letters, and it's often used in other situations in life like meetings, at weddings, for example. There is a type of etiquette. This is all about etiquette. In a cover letter, if the writer of a cover letter can't show that they don't know about etiquette, then what else do they not know? And this leads us to our next choice. We look at word choice. This is about appropriate language. If you want to show correct etiquette in a cover letter, we do that through the language we use. We've also already looked at some examples of expressions. Word choice is very important as it is a reflection of your personality. Potential employers prefer candidates who are capable communicators. That means a person who can communicate effectively and well. Instead of saying, I'm an excellent communicator, the English is okay there, there's nothing wrong with that. Consider instead saying something like, I was given the opportunity to improve my communication skills. This is much better. Why? Well, this version here sounds a little bit on the arrogant side, to be honest, whereas this version here sounds less arrogant. It shows that you have better word choice, and also it tells you more about, it paints a richer picture of you as a person, whereas it shows you trying to do something, trying to be better. I'm a great leader sounds like you're trying to take over the world, whereas I was given a lot of responsibility in my last position shows the reader that you are trusted by somebody else, that somebody else trusted you to do something. I speak English fluently is a very big claim. What does fluently mean? Well, it means almost perfectly without any mistakes. Are you sure that can be said about your English? Maybe it would be better to say, I received a C in Cambridge First Certificate. That's more tangible, more practical, and it's more of a fact. And the employer can see that you deal in facts, not boasting about yourself in a way that cannot be proven. Sometimes students say, I speak Chinese fluently. A better option might be explain how that happened. I spent a year in Beijing improving my Chinese. This sentence is much richer in that it shows that you committed to spending a year of your life in a foreign city. So you traveled, you left home, and you went to live there. That shows strength of character. And you wanted to improve your Chinese. So that means that when you go to the interview, if you're called, that you were trying to improve your Chinese. And again, the interviewer or the prospective employer will see that you're not a person who uses language foolishly. And that leads us to our next point, judgment. This is about your common sense. You can often show a prospective employer what a good employee you would be by the way you present yourself. And in the cover letter, really the only way to present yourself here is through your language. Later in the interview, you can show that you're a nice, slim, well-built, healthy, physically fit person with a nice haircut and no ring in your nose. But here, in the cover letter, you need to show judgment. And this is through your common sense. How can you show it? Through your language. When you say certain things about yourself, you should ask yourself if it makes you appear arrogant or unattractive as a person. So how would you do this? Through using the wrong type of language. So make sure you use the correct type of language. If you show bad judgment in your cover letter, a prospective employer might ask themselves if you would show bad judgment in other situations also. That's very true. Over the years, I've personally employed maybe over 100 people. And I have to tell you, sometimes the things people say in cover letters are pretty amazing, really. And I don't mean that in a positive way. Sometimes people will say things about themselves that don't make them look attractive or positive, even though they think they do. It actually makes them look a little bit arrogant and untrustworthy. And if it is really worth their while calling you in for an interview, so that's what judgment in your language can make a prospective employer think. They can think, is it really worth my while calling this person in for an interview? So what's the difference between good and bad cover letters? Well, a bad cover letter can make you look arrogant and misguided, and may make prospective employers think that both you and your level of English are not up to scratch. That's a nice phrase there. That means not good enough. A good cover letter doesn't guarantee that you get to the interview, but a bad cover letter will make it very difficult to do so. A good cover letter will be true, realistic, and unexaggerated. An employer doesn't want to call you to interview only to discover that you can't actually do the things you said you could do. Nobody likes a time waster. So let's recap. What should we have in our cover letter? Good spelling, check. Good punctuation, check. Good grammar, check. These three things are the basics. Even native speakers hand over their cover letter to a friend, a colleague, or a teacher, and they ask them to proofread for these little mistakes that we just can't see with our eyes sometimes. It's not a reflection of your intelligence. It happens to everybody, even to native speakers. So hand over your letter to be corrected for those things: spelling, punctuation, and grammar. Then make sure that you're following the correct etiquette. Use some of the phrases that we've shown you already, and also appropriate word choice. So when you're constructing your sentences about yourself, reconsider some of the phrases that might sound like a very positive thing to say, but actually might sound arrogant or unattractive to the reader. A good sense of judgment. That's very, very important. Make sure that you show sense of judgment in your language, because the employer will then think, if they show good judgment here, they'll show good judgment in other things. And finally, make sure your cover letter is true and unexaggerated. Be very careful saying things like, I have an excellent level of English, when in fact that's not for you to say. Show them that you have taken a course, done an exam, and you have achieved a result. which is also a much better thing. So make sure all of these things are on your checklist. Now, recently we did an employer survey and we interviewed a number of employers and HR managers, and here are some of their comments on cover letters. Lots of applicants just talk about themselves and never actually talk about the company they're applying to. It's kind of insulting, to be honest, knowing that the cover letter you're reading has just been copied and pasted. It doesn't really make you want to invite them to interview. So there's a comment from one of the employers that we spoke to in our survey. Another comment by an employer was, applicants really should do some research about the company and show this in the cover letter. Lots of younger applicants tend to send in cover letters talking about skills that are not suited to the position. It's annoying knowing the applicant is approaching a very important moment and has done no research. Why would we want someone like that in the company? So there's another interesting comment. Next comment. Some cover letters are hilarious. They make really mad statements like, I have excellent leadership skills. Who says that? Imagine going for coffee and boasting like that. All that shows the employer is that the applicant has no sense of judgment. Show me, don't tell me. Give me an example of these skills. That's very interesting, isn't it? Employer there saying about, talking about people boasting. The writer of the letter might think it's perfectly natural. The reader of the letter may just find it arrogant. Next comment. When some applicants sit down to write their cover letter, I think they go inside their own head and don't realise that a HR manager or company owner will be reading their letter. You've got to give the reader something that's going to interest them. Mention skills you've developed and how they can help the employer. No one's interested in how wonderful you think you are. Write about how stuff you've learned in the past is going to help the prospective employer in the future. So there's an interesting perspective. Show in your cover letter the things you've learned, the things you've done, the things you've experienced, and then connect them to how you can help the employer. If your letter appears arrogant or the language is inappropriate, then I'm not really going to want to hire you, because imagine the problems that will bring to the company later. When I read your cover letter, I need to think you're a reasonable, honest, capable person, not some mad fantasist. Fantasist is a person who thinks they're wonderful but aren't really. And the next comment, please don't make stuff up. Don't imagine stuff that you think sounds impressive. Look at your job description. Look at our job description and ask yourself if you're really the person for that position. So that's a good piece of advice. Don't apply for positions that don't really suit you. If you have the qualifications specified, tell us what it is about you as a person that makes you a suitable candidate. So yes, I think that's true. A lot of our clients in the past have focused too much on Lego building English words together rather than creating an interesting picture with language. And I think that's very true. A big mistake by many applicants is they only think about their cover letter or CV or resume the day they sit down to write about it. They forget that these documents are a portrait of your life. So if you're not doing anything with your life, you're not really going to have anything interesting to say in your cover letter. Good cover letters and CVs and resumes always refer to something the applicant has done that proves they're worth interviewing. So there's an interesting comment from a HR manager who spoke to us in our survey. So there are some food for thought there on cover letters. Join us in part 2 of our work on cover letters, where we go into specifics and write a cover letter paragraph by paragraph. That's all from me. The very best of luck, and we'll see you next time.